morning. Welcome back to Dwayne and Nedia's Kitchen. Just me today, and I'm going to be making something I've never made before. In fact, I have the recipe all written out over there, so I can be very precise with, the ingredients and the measurements. And today, I'm sure all of you have heard of peaches and cream. Well, today we're making a peaches and cream cheese bread loaf. Yep, it's supposed to be really good. I've never made it. I've seen different variations, blueberry and other kinds of fruits. But I'm a peach lover, so this one you can use peaches, and I'm going to use canned. Let me talk about what you'll need to have on hand to make this bread or loaf. I think it's more like a what is it that loaf? Like a butter loaf or whatever. I've seen those types of breads before. It's more of a cakey bread, not like a bread. So anyway, you're going to need 2 big bowls. I got that. One average size 16.5 ounce can of peaches, a bar of cream cheese, some all-purpose flour, some sugar, 2 eggs, a stick of butter. I don't have fresh lemons at home, but I do have some lemon peel, which I'm going to substitute for the lemon zest that the recipe calls for, some salt, some baking powder, and 1 cup of milk. So those are the ingredients. Not anything too crazy. Most of the stuff I think most people have. And I'm sure you can replace the can of peaches with real peaches. I'm actually going to prepare these things off camera and then tell you exactly what you need to do once we start putting this together. So I'm going to open the can of peaches and I'm going to dice them into little diced pieces of peach. I am going to soften this cream cheese. I did take it out a little while ago to let it soften, but sometimes I give it a couple of seconds in the microwave to get it soft enough to then combine with my other ingredients. I've already measured out 1 cup of milk. I am going to melt down this stick of butter, and I'm going to measure out the flour and the sugar. So I'm going to do that and then show you everything, come back and show you how to put this together. And before I even start, I'm going to preheat my oven to 375 degrees. Okay, let's get this started. Okay, I'm back, and I have 2 bowls. I'm going to use 2 bowls, one for the dry ingredients and one for the wet, and then we'll combine everything here in this big one. All right, first thing is first, my oven is coming to temperature, which is perfect timing. I have 1.5 cups of flour here, and I have, 2.25 cups of flour here in this, which I'll make my dry ingredients first. This is 1.5 cups of sugar, which I'm going to put in this bowl. All right, to that I will add softened cream cheese. I softened it in the microwave. Don't over microwave it because you don't want to cook the cheese or curdle the cheese. I also softened the butter in the microwave. This is 1 stick of butter in here. Now I'm going to add 2 eggs. Throw the shells in this empty bowl. You use half a teaspoon of lemon zest. I'm not going to overdo it. I'll just use a little smidge of this. There we go. This is lemon peel. Okay, so I think that's it for this. And now I'm going to mix this up. The eggs, the cream cheese, the sugar, the lemon peel or lemon zest. There's also the option of adding a little bit of cinnamon, although I'm not quite sure what the cinnamon would add to the flavor profile here, so I'm going to omit it since it is optional. You want to make sure you combine this really, really well because the cream cheese needs to totally disintegrate into this sugar egg mix. So these are the wet parts of this recipe. And there you go. Now, I have the 2¼ cups of flour in this one. And to that, and I want to make sure I get the right amount. All right. It's 1 full tablespoon of baking powder that I'm going to add to the 2¼ cups. All right, I'll make that a leveled off tablespoon. And now we have to add some salt. 1.5 teaspoons of salt. This takes a long time when you're using the shaker, but I didn't want to use that coarse ground salt for baking. I wanted to use regular salt. Bear with me while I measure out this salt. Of course, you're probably thinking, Nidia, why don't you just open the top of that? And if you were thinking that, you were correct in thinking that that is something I should do. Much easier to get the salt out now. There we go. And the other teaspoon wasn't full, so this one is about 1/3. It's about 1.5 teaspoons overall that I've put in this mix. And I'll whisk these dry things together. It's just a dry mix. Alrighty, so I have my dry ingredients, my wet ingredients. So what I'm going to do now is I'm slowly going to add this dry ingredient to the wet. I'm going to do it and just keep stirring it so I don't clump anything. You don't want to get all clumpy flour in there, so do it slowly. And you don't need to mix it or use a hand mixer or anything. You're fine with just using a spoon or a whisk. Just don't put in too much at a time. Make sure you thoroughly mix that flour in. Go up along the sides of your bowl. Now this recipe can make 2 small loaves or 1 large loaf. A little bit more in here. And now a little more stirring and combining. Getting a lot thicker. Get my dry ingredients incorporated into all of the wet. See? There we go. I think I'll put half in here and leave the other half for the last batch. Yeah, I'm not much of a baker. You see me cook a lot. Dwayne's usually the one who likes to bake. I think it's because you have to be so much more precise when you're baking. You can't just wing it like you can when you're cooking. You can pretty much just keep adding more of different things to offset some type of cooking mistake. But I find you can't really do that with baking. And if you haven't checked out some of Dwayne's baking videos, we have a couple of really good ones. I believe zucchini bread, banana bread. He's made cheesecake. What we call a fruit pizza. And that does it for the flour, baking powder, and salt dry ingredients. They're all in here now. I just have to make sure I very carefully incorporate this to create one smooth batter. It is getting very dry. So after I get most of this incorporated, the next step is going to be to add that cup of milk. And in fact, I think I'm going to add the milk now, at least half of it now, to make it easier to continue to stir. That made it much easier. I don't need to do as much of an arm workout. There we go. Yeah, you want to try and not have it be lumpy. So you want a little bit of elbow grease. I'm going to take some of the flour from the sides. It is getting very battery now. It's looking good. I'm going to add the other half cup of milk and continue to turn it into my batter. Much easier now with that cup of milk. The moisture is definitely making it easier to stir. Everything is becoming incorporated, and all these different ingredients are now being married into a beautiful batter. It's actually a pretty thin batter. It reminds me of a cake batter. And that's what I was thinking of before. When I kept saying the word loaf or bread, think about this as a more of a cakey thing, kind of like a pound cake. Looks like a bread, and you bake it usually in a, or you can in a bread loaf pan. Oh, this looks really good. Last is my can of peaches. I drained most of the liquid and then I diced it into little chunks, not uniform at all. I basically opened the can of peaches, dumped it in there, used a fork and a knife. I hope this peachy bread comes out good. Yep, so that's the recipe did say that it would make one large loaf or two small loaves. I'm going to show you my loaf pan. I don't know if this is too much for that size that I pretty much picked out, or if I need to do two. I don't know, because large is relative, right? Don't know what size. But I'm going to use, or was planning. So I'm planning on using this loaf pan. That looks like a lot of batter. I may have to use another one as well. And I am going to grease it. I just use the butter spray. You can use regular butter. Grease it well. Do the sides, bottom. Make sure every surface has a little bit of that spray on it. And let's see, I may have to use two of these. Not quite sure. There we go. I'll put that there for a second. This does have a spout on it. See the chunks of, oh, I think this might make it. You can see the chunks of orange, the chunks of all of the peach. Yep, now I'm going to use that spatula spoon I was using before to get the rest out. It's going to be a big loaf. Hoping I didn't overdo it by putting it all in this pan. It will rise. I guess I'll have a mess on my hands otherwise, right? And there you have it, folks. The loaf pan is ready for my preheated 375-degree oven. Okay, so now I'm going to place the loaf in the oven, center rack, for about 55 minutes and bake it at 375. So there you have it, folks. I put the loaf pan with the batter in my oven. I did set the timer for 55 minutes. I'm going to check on it before then to make sure something didn't happen or something went wrong. And I'll be back to show you the final result. See you soon.
So after about, I guess, I don't know, maybe 30 or 35 minutes, I did check on the cake, the loaf in the oven, and it was not overflowing. It wasn't, didn't overrise or anything. It was coming along. So then I checked back again at around the 50-minute mark, put the long toothpick in. It came out completely dry, and that told me that it was finished. So now all we have left to do is to look at it in its fully final finished form. And if you're wondering why I'm doing this in voiceover, even though I'm wearing a mic and I had one attached to the camera, unfortunately the batteries died on it. So here you have it, folks. That's me showing the completed and finished loaf. And then that's me taking a small slice of it and giving it a taste. I have to say, it's absolutely delicious. So moist. You can taste the creaminess of the cream cheese. You can definitely taste the essence of the peach flavor, the peach chunks. It was still just slightly warm when I tried it. and it was so, so good. I'm actually thinking of trying this recipe again, but this time I'm going to try and use pineapple, canned pineapple. Something about a pineapple cream cheese loaf sounds absolutely delicious, and if it was this good with peaches, I'm sure the pineapple will be delicious as well. Catch you in the next video. Please subscribe and hit that like button if you like content like this, and we'll see you on our next food adventure.